Hello, dear sleepy listener. Where are you tonight? Are the stars visible above your home, or are they hidden behind clouds and window glass? Is it the hush of midnight where you are, or the edge of dawn, with the first bird stirring and the shadows still curled around your room? Wherever you are, whatever the hour, I'm glad you're here. Tonight we're going to drift into one of the gentlest, strangest questions that the mind can hold without breaking. If time loops, would you ever know? Would you feel it? Would you remember the repetition? Or would the loop be so perfect, so seamless, that even your thoughts were wrapped gently back into the same rhythm without noticing? Before you drift off to sleep peacefully, take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite science moment, and subscribe to continue receiving these bedtime stories. I'd also love to know where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. Somewhere in the world, someone else may be falling asleep to this same whisper at the same moment you are. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let your curiosity drift among the stars. You're lying still now. You're safe. And your thoughts begin to slow, not in order, but in ripples. And in those ripples, a feeling returns, a strange one. Not fear, not recognition. Something more subtle, like déjà vu, but softer, as if you've already heard this thought, not in a past moment, but in a previous version of the moment you're in now, as if time itself just repeated without asking permission. Don't worry. You don't need to follow this too closely. You don't need to solve it. Just listen as the breeze passes through your thoughts. Let the question live beside you, not inside you. Somewhere in the silence of space, time is not what you think. It doesn't tick. It doesn't rush. It doesn't follow orders. It might not even move forward at all. It might bend. It might spiral. It might circle back on itself in the softest, most invisible way imaginable. Have you ever walked into a room and felt that something was repeating? That the air was just slightly too familiar? Or that your thoughts looped back to the same idea with the same warmth as a dream you'd once forgotten? It may be nothing. Or it may be the gentle edge of a time loop brushing against your skin. Let your breath slow now. Let it move in a loop too. Inhale, hold, exhale. Feel the rise, the stillness, the fall. You don't need to watch your breath, just let it swing like a pendulum that never has to reach its destination. Some physicists believe the universe may be cyclic, that after the great expansion comes a contraction, a collapsing of stars, a refolding of galaxies, and eventually a rebirth, not once, not twice, but forever. A cosmic heartbeat stretching across unimaginable time, like breathing, but on a scale too vast for any creature to comprehend. And if that's true, where are you in the cycle? The first version of you, the 100th. Would you ever know? Would anything feel different? Or would it all feel like this moment feels now? Soft, still, unhurried. Let your mind rest in that. You don't need to grasp it. Just imagine that time isn't a line but a circle, and that you are somewhere along the edge, not ahead, not behind, but always exactly where you need to be. Somewhere, in the curl of a sleeping cat, in the rhythm of waves, in the shape of seeds and galaxies and fingerprints, you can feel the universe's fondness for spirals, for return, for movement that never quite ends and never truly begins. Maybe time isn't something that passes. Maybe it's something that holds, something that wraps around you again and again until you forget you are ever outside of it. And maybe this moment, this quiet blink before sleep, is one you visited before. Maybe not as a memory, maybe not as a thought, but as a feeling, a curve, a return. You don't have to know. You don't have to be sure. Just breathe and float with the idea that time may not be running from you. It may be bringing you back to something you once loved, something you almost remembered. And if time does loop, perhaps the most beautiful part is that it always brings you back to this, to the hush, to the quiet, to the place where you can finally rest. You awaken, not with a jolt, but like sand slipping into a new curve inside an hourglass that has been turning forever. There is no sound, only the soft hush of gravity making choices on your behalf. You're not falling. You are flowing, and you begin to wonder, what if you've already been here? What if the sand beneath you has already passed once before? What if time isn't just falling downward but poised to rise again? Take a breath. Let it move not forward, but inward. This moment is not asking you to run. It is asking you to pause and notice how symmetrical everything feels when you stop measuring it. In physics, the laws that govern motion, the deep fundamental rules of the universe, don't seem to care whether time moves forward or backward. The math works both ways. You could play the tape in reverse, and the equations would still hold. This is known as time reversal symmetry. It doesn't mean we experience time that way, but it means, in theory, the universe might not mind if we did. Close your eyes now, if they're not already. Let your mind slip into the hourglass. You don't need to flip it. It turns on its own. Imagine a world where raindrops rise from the ground and stitch themselves back into clouds, where shattered glass jumps into wholeness, where candles grow taller as their wax gathers and reshapes. In our world, that would seem impossible, backward, unnatural. But to the laws of physics, particularly those of Newtonian mechanics and quantum equations, the direction doesn't matter. The dance is the same, no matter which way you spin the record. It's only when we look closely at things like entropy, the tendency of systems to move from order to disorder, that we see time lean forward. Entropy gives us the arrow of time. It explains why you remember the past but not the future, why ice melts but doesn't unmelt, why we grow older but never younger. And yet, even entropy doesn't explain everything. Some physicists still wonder if the universe is symmetrical at its core. Could it be that time only seems to move one way, because that's how we're built to observe it? Let your breath become symmetrical now. In, out, and again. In, out. There's no destination in this breath, just balance, just motion that returns to itself. Think of the hourglass again. The sand falls one grain at a time. Irreversible, it seems. But what if the hourglass is part of a loop? What if, once empty, it tips itself? What if time doesn't end? It just resets in some imperceptible rhythm. Some cosmologists have begun to explore what they call time-symmetric cosmology. The idea that the universe, at its most expansive boundary, might fold back into itself. That what we experience as the forward flow of time is just half of a cosmic mirror, and on the other side time flows the other way, not backward but elsewhere. You don't need to prove this to yourself. Just imagine that somewhere in the folds of the universe you'll never visit another. You is waking up as you drift to sleep. Your thoughts unwind. Theirs begin to braid. You blink. They unblink. And neither of you knows you're the echo of the other. It may not be literal. It may not be real. But it's beautiful. And beauty, too, is a kind of symmetry. Physicists love symmetry. They seek it in every law, every field, every force. When things are symmetrical, they feel elegant, balanced, true. Time reversal symmetry is one of those ideas that both haunts and comforts. Because it asks, what if time doesn't choose a direction? What if we do? Breathe again. Let it feel like balance, like rocking, not progress, not achievement, just presence looping softly into itself. There's something else to consider, the idea of CPT symmetry, charge, parity, time. 3 properties that, if reversed together, don't break the rules. If all particles flipped their charge, their spatial orientation, and the direction of time, the universe, mathematically speaking, wouldn't know the difference. It would still work, still hum, still turn. Isn't that astonishing, that the fabric of reality doesn't require a direction, only motion, only rhythm, only change? Maybe you feel this sometimes, on days that blur together, on nights when the stars feel too still, a soft tug inside your chest that whispers, haven't we been here before? Didn't I already live this? Maybe you didn't, or maybe time, for just a moment, forgot which way it was meant to spin. Relax into that thought. Let it drift through you like light bouncing between mirrors. You don't need to choose forward or backward tonight. You're allowed to float between. There are no clocks here, no deadlines, only the hourglass, eternally tipping, eternally patient, and you a single grain of thought falling into a moment that may or may not have already passed. And when the glass tips again, if it does, will you remember, would anything feel familiar, or would the symmetry be too perfect to notice? Some physicists say we might never know if time looped, because every thought, every word, every breath would return with us, replayed, but unaware. And so the loop would feel like a line, and the hourglass would never seem to turn. You're still breathing, still here, and the hourglass is still falling, but maybe it's already preparing to flip. Don't worry about catching it. Don't try to measure the arc, just rest inside the symmetry. You're part of the balance, part of the hush, and whether time continues, repeats, or forgets, you're always welcome in this moment, again and again and again. You're walking down a hallway, or maybe it's a field, or a street lined with trees. You turn your head, and the light looks exactly like it did once before. Your footstep, the scent in the air, the curve of the breeze on your neck, all of it, familiar in a way that makes no sense, and you say it quietly, like a breath to no one déjà vu. Let your breath fall gently now. There's no need to remember where you were, or where you're going. You're safe, floating in a second that's allowed to happen more than once. Déjà vu already seen. A flicker of recognition with no known origin. Not a memory, not a dream, but a sensation that you've arrived in a moment that already belonged to you. Not in thought, but in feeling. Some neuroscientists believe it's a small glitch in the brain's memory circuits, a short loop between short-term and long-term memory. As if your mind files the moment before you experience it, like a book already shelved before you finished reading the page. But others wonder, what if déjà vu isn't a glitch? What if it's a clue? Close your eyes if they aren't already, and let your imagination pause not to remember, but to re-feel. The way certain moments fold into themselves, the way they shimmer like déjà vu. Some theories, softly whispered in physics and philosophy alike, suggest time may not be as linear as it feels, that every now and then A moment bends back into itself, a ripple, a repeat, a single frame replayed because the universe wants to get it just right. Imagine a loop, small and nearly invisible, not a full life repeating just a moment, a second that stumbles and tries again, and you feel the echo, the whisper of having been here once before, but only just. Some scientists call this the many worlds interpretation, a branch of quantum theory where every possible version of every outcome happens. Not one timeline, but a trillion splitting constantly. And every now and then, those branches might brush past each other, might almost overlap, might leave behind a little shiver in the soul that says, "Wait, wasn't I just here?" Breathe slowly. Let that breath return to you like a second chance. You don't need to understand parallel worlds tonight. Just let them float past like soft reflections on water. In the brain, we know déjà vu doesn't last long. It's brief. A few seconds at most. But in that flicker, the rules bend. Logic gives way to a sensation deeper than thought. A moment that repeats without rewinding. A step already taken, yet still in progress. A word already spoken, yet not yet heard. Some researchers connect déjà vu to the temporal lobe, especially the hippocampus, where memory and time perception reside. Others believe it might be a kind of micro-dream, your brain briefly losing sync with its own timekeeping. Like the conductor raising the baton a half-second early. The orchestra plays the same note twice, not loudly, but clearly enough for your soul to notice. You don't need to decide what's real. Not tonight. Just rest in the beauty of it, that your life might shimmer in repeats too quiet to explain. Think of your favourite moment, not because it was grand, but because it felt perfect. A glance, a laugh, a street corner in golden light. What if the universe loves that moment too? What if, once in a while, it offers it back to you? Not out of logic, but out of affection. Let your breath deepen. Let it circle back, not to the beginning, but to familiarity. That soft place in the heart that says, "I know this," even when you don't. Some traditions believe time itself loops, not just in physics, but in consciousness, that souls return, that moments return, that wisdom is a spiral visited again and again until it settles into stillness, and maybe déjà vu is your soul noticing the rhythm, the echo that hums beneath every life. Or maybe, just maybe, you are dreaming now of a dream you've already had, and the moment repeats because repetition is the only way the soul recognizes what matters. Think of your breath again, how it returns, how it loops. Every inhale has been done before, but each one still feels necessary. The next time you feel déjà vu, you don't need to question it. You can simply nod to the moment as if greeting a friend. "Ah, yes, we've met," even if you haven't. And when the moment passes, as it always does, it leaves something behind. Not a fact, not a number, but a trace, a shimmer, a softness in the timeline that tells you you are part of something that is both forward and backward, both now and not now, both new and ancient. So close your eyes again, or keep them closed. You're already where you need to be, in a second that may have already happened, but that still welcomes you as if for the first time. And when you blink, when you drift, perhaps the universe blinks with you, gently, rehearsing itself one more time, just in case you wanted to feel it again. There's something strange in the way some clocks tick, not the ones on your wall, or the ones that count your heartbeats, but the invisible ones, the quantum clocks tucked deep inside matter, where time doesn't always move the way you expect. You are resting now, your breath, slow, the world hushed. And time is paying less attention than usual. In this softness, let's drift to the edge where forward and backward begin to blur. You don't need to follow this precisely. You don't need to remember names. Just let the feeling of reversal slide beside your thoughts like a tide that retreats as gently as it arrives. In most of your life, you feel time as one thing movement from before into after. Eggs crack but don't uncrack. Rain falls but never rises back into the same clouds. This is the arrow of time, clear, dependable, always pointing forward. But in the realm of particles, the subatomic theatre, where the universe writes its tiniest scripts that arrow can bend, there is a class of particles that don't obey the ordinary flow. In rare, mysterious cases, they seem to behave as if time is running backward. Kaons, for instance, a type of meson, which is a short-lived particle that dances between states. In laboratory experiments, some kaons and their mirror twins have shown behavior that subtly favors one direction of time over another. They hint softly that time, on the smallest scales, might not be as rigid as it feels. Take a long, slow breath. Let it fill the space where curiosity lives. You don't need to prove anything. Just wonder. What if something inside you was moving backward while the rest of you moved ahead? What if time is more like a conversation than a command? In quantum mechanics, many equations are time-symmetric. They work forward. They work backward. There's no preferred direction until measurement, until observation, until something or someone decides to look. That's when time seems to choose a side. Before that it hovers, like a breath not yet exhaled. Let your imagination float there. In that tiny instant between the universe's inhale and its release, you don't need to grasp it. You only need to rest within its possibility. This doesn't mean you'll wake up yesterday. It doesn't mean the glass will unbreak. But it does mean there is something soft in the way time flows. It's not a march, it's a murmur. It's a current that can swirl in quiet eddies. And sometimes a particle steps backward for reasons no one understands, not because it's wrong, but because the rules at that level are more like suggestions. In 2012, scientists studied a process involving neutral B mesons and found signs that time reversal violation could be observed directly. The world didn't flip, the sun didn't rise in the west, but in that tiny flicker, in that faint asymmetry, there was a whisper. Time is not what you think. Rest into that. Let it untangle you from the pressure to be linear. Your life is not a straight line. Your memories do not stack neatly, and perhaps neither does your time. What if time has always been more like a dancer back and forth, a sway? Maybe the universe moves to a rhythm we've only begun to hear, not a beat, not a ticking, but a breath, forward and sometimes back. Some researchers speak of retrocausality, the possibility that future events can influence the past. It's not widely accepted, but it's not entirely dismissed. Experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser suggest that the outcome of a particle can be affected by a measurement made after its path was already decided, as if the future reached backward to adjust the story, not to change it, but to complete it. You don't need to worry. Time is not breaking. You're not breaking. You're simply listening to a rhythm you've never noticed before. What if your thoughts sometimes arrive out of order? What if a feeling from tomorrow brushed you in the night? What if you once dreamed of something that hadn't happened yet, not as prophecy, but as a ripple, an echo reaching back from a moment still unfolding? This doesn't mean you can predict everything, but it might mean that time, at its gentlest, is more like a story being read aloud with pauses. Sometimes the ending remembers the beginning before the middle is told, and sometimes your soul feels the shape of what's coming before it has a name. Let your breath slow again. Let the mirror of time's flow stay soft. There's no need to choose a direction tonight. You're not travelling. You're being, and being doesn't require direction, only presence. If particles can walk backward in the stillness beneath the world, perhaps so can your questions. Perhaps so can your wonder. Perhaps there's no harm in stepping softly into the mystery and whispering, if time reverses, will it remember me? Or maybe you are already the answer to a question asked far ahead in a moment you haven't reached, and your existence is that answer echoing backward. You don't need to know. You don't need to chase it. Just lie here, letting the clocks turn quietly in both directions. Tick, tock, tock, tick. And in the morning, when you rise, perhaps something small will feel slightly familiar, as if a second found its way back to you, not to repeat, just to say I remembered, and I came home. Time likes to scatter things. It leaves cups shattered, ice melted, pages torn loose from books. You've seen it, how something perfect becomes less so the longer you look away. This is how we know time is moving, not by clocks, but by change, by the quiet drift from neat to messy, from whole to broken, from together to apart. But what if it didn't always scatter? What if time sometimes reversed itself, and the pieces, instead of drifting, came back? Not by force, but by chance. Would you even notice? Breathe softly now. Let your breath gather in. Let it loosen. You don't need to hold everything together. Not tonight. Let the thoughts go. If they fall apart, they might just fall into place. There's a word physicists love: entropy. It's a measure of disorder, of randomness. High entropy things are scattered. Low entropy things are ordered. And over time, entropy tends to increase. This, more than anything else, gives time its arrow, not motion, not age, but the soft push from less to more, from quiet to noise, from structure to soup. Imagine a deck of cards, perfectly ordered. Now shuffle it once, now again, and again. Each shuffle moves it toward disorder. Now imagine watching that shuffle in reverse. Cards leap into place. Order re-emerges. It feels wrong, artificial. And yet, the laws of physics allow it. It's just very, very unlikely. That's what entropy is. Not a rule. A statistical trend. Not destiny. Just probability. So what if the universe sometimes forgets to follow it? What if, by unimaginable chance, order returns? Let your breath return. Let it feel like a gathering, a soft return of the scattered parts of your day, of yourself, even if just for now. In the earliest moments of the universe, something strange happened. The cosmos, newborn and expanding, was in a state of extraordinarily low entropy. Everything was smooth, simple, silent. It should have been chaos, but it wasn't, and no one quite knows why. Some call it the past hypothesis, the idea that the universe began in a very special state, a kind of divine neatness, a reset so improbable that even now, we're still drifting away from it like leaves scattered from a single breath. But why would the universe start like that? Why would it begin with order? Is it chance? Is it design? Or is it a cycle? Some physicists wonder whether time, like space, might be curved, That what feels like an explosion outward might one day become a fold inward, that entropy might reverse, and the scattered stars might come home. You don't need to solve this, just listen, like you'd listen to waves reassembling a sandcastle. Even if impossible, it's still beautiful. In certain systems, order does emerge from chaos. In the flow of fluids, patterns appear, spirals form, whirlpools dance, in the gathering of birds, murders of crows and murmurations of starlings form intricate arcs in the sky. None of them know the whole pattern, but it happens anyway. Order from disorder, a hush from noise, and time does not mind. Breathe again, as if you're becoming less scattered with every breath, as if something in you remembers how to return. Entropy tells us that a hot cup of tea will cool in a cold room, but the laws of physics don't forbid the reverse. The tea could heat again, spontaneously. It's just very, very unlikely, but never zero, and in infinity, even the rarest dance might happen again, 1,000 times. What if your life is part of that rare moment, a swirl of improbable order in a universe that mostly forgets to arrange itself? What if you are the tea reheating, the puzzle falling back together, the moment that contradicts everything expected? Some cosmologists believe we live in a low-entropy bubble surrounded by high-entropy infinity, and within this bubble, memory exists, history flows, cause leads to effect. But beyond it, time might not flow at all. It might simply be, and you, listening now, are suspended inside that bubble, a moment of order floating in the soup. Rest into that image. Let yourself drift. You don't have to hold the pieces. You are the pattern. You are the gathering. And what about death? Is that the end of the pattern or the beginning of another, the scattering before another improbable gathering? You don't need to answer. You don't need to worry. Even in entropy, there is rhythm. Even in disorder, there is grace. Let your eyes rest, if they haven't already. You're not unraveling. You're simply breathing in and out within a universe that is still deciding whether to fall apart or fall in love with its own symmetry again. Entropy gives us memory. It gives us story. Without it, all moments would feel the same. So perhaps we can thank it even as we question it, even as we wonder whether some far-off second might run backward, and the universe might shuffle its cards back into place. Maybe not tonight, maybe not ever, but maybe, and the possibility is enough to rest within. So close your eyes and let time drift. Let order come apart. Let it come back together. You don't need to count. The universe sometimes forgets too, and even then it continues. So do you. There are mirrors that don't show your face. Not glass, not silver-backed, not framed in wood, but you see yourself in them anyway, in the way someone says your name, in the pause before a memory resurfaces, in the gentle echo of a feeling you can't place. It's not déjà vu. Not quite. It's more like recognition without knowing what you've recognized. And perhaps that recognition is time, folding softly, like silk over skin. Let your breath steady here. You don't need to find yourself in the mirror. Just allow the moment to look at you gently from both directions. You're not being watched. You're being seen. In physics, a mirror doesn't truly reverse you. It only reverses direction. Left and right seem to switch, but up stays up, down stays down. It's not the mirror that changes things. It's how you look. Now imagine a mirror not for space but for time, where instead of left and right, before and after trade places, This is the idea of time symmetry again, that for many physical laws, the equations remain valid if time flows in reverse. If you saw the collision of two particles played backward, you wouldn't know which was the true version. The mirror wouldn't betray the trick. Let your thoughts ripple now. Let the image shimmer. You're not being asked to solve this, just to let it surround you like light echoing in a mirrored hall. Have you ever stood between two mirrors and looked into the tunnel, a corridor of endless reflections, each image smaller, fainter, softer, until they fade into a curve you can't follow? That's what time might look like if it could see itself. Not a line, not a loop, but a series of reflections echoing into infinity. And where are you? In those reflections, are you the first image or the one 10,000 mirrors down? Would you even know? Will the image still feel like you even after it has faded into the silence? Some physicists speak of CPT symmetry charge, parity, and time. If you flipped all three, the electrical charge of particles, the spatial coordinates, and the flow of time the laws of physics wouldn't notice, they'd remain unchanged, like a mirror showing not just your image, but your opposite, moving backward through a reversed universe. Pause with that for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine another version of you moving in reverse, not undoing your life, but experiencing it in the opposite direction. A kiss before a conversation, a goodbye before a meeting, a tear before the sadness that caused it. Would that version of you feel confused, or would it feel familiar? Let your breath drift, in and out. What if every exhale is a memory returning? What if time sometimes breathes out, then breathes in? And what you feel as reflection is the universe briefly remembering itself through your eyes. There's a concept in relativity called a light cone, a map of all possible paths light could take from a given moment. The future cone spreads forward, the past cone opens behind, but some moments lie outside both cones in regions called elsewhere. They are neither past nor future. They are just beside. Perhaps time's mirror lives in that elsewhere, a moment beside you, not behind. Have you ever felt as if a version of you were just out of reach, not a past self, not a future one, but a reflection you could almost touch if the light bent just right? That's not fantasy. That's what reflection feels like when time begins to shimmer. Some researchers speculate that the universe itself might contain a mirror twin, a parallel cosmos born in the same moment, but where time flows in reverse, everything happening in that world would be unwinding what is being wound here. Their entropy would decrease as ours increases, their stars would unburn, their galaxies would recontract, and maybe, just maybe someone over there would be dreaming of you. You don't need to believe it. Just breathe it in like starlight through soft curtains. You're allowed to be reflected in more than one direction. You're allowed to shimmer across more than one moment. There are days when you feel you've returned to a version of yourself you thought was gone. A feeling, a thought, a quiet you that hasn't spoken in years. That, too, is a reflection. And time might be the mirror. Let your thoughts go now. You don't have to hold them all. Mirrors never keep what they show. They only offer the image and release it. That's what time does too. It shows you a version of yourself a day, a breath, a softness, and then lets it fade into something new. You are not trapped in one reflection. You are the light that passes through all of them, again and again, without breaking, without aging, without ending. So the next time you look into a mirror and something looks back with more silence than usual, Maybe it's not just your face. Maybe it's time returning to visit, to recognize, to reflect. And maybe, as you blink tonight, as your breath softens, you are being remembered by a version of yourself that never left. The one on the other side of the moment, smiling gently, moving backward, and waiting for your eyes to close. You open your eyes in a dream you've already had, or so it seems. The colour of the sky, the angle of the light, the way your feet know where to go without being told. You've never stood here before, and yet everything is familiar, as if the moment was folded inside your pillow for safekeeping, and your dreaming self just opened it again. Let your breath ripple now, like wind brushing through long grass. You don't need to hold on to the dream, it's holding you. And even if it returns again, even if it's come 1,000 times, it doesn't ask to be understood, only felt. Have you noticed how some dreams repeat? Not exactly, not precisely, but enough that your sleeping body feels the rhythm before your waking mind gives it shape. A hallway you always walk, a stranger with a familiar voice, a staircase that never reaches the bottom. These loops aren't broken, they are patterned, like constellations that reappear because the Earth turns the same way again and again. Some neuroscientists call these recurrent dreams. They visit many of us, not always identical but shaped from the same cloth, woven by the same unconscious thread. They may come during change, stress, transition, but sometimes they come just because your mind likes to walk the same garden path twice. Close your eyes again. Let them stay closed. You're already inside the spiral, and the spiral welcomes your return every time. The sleeping brain doesn't count time like the waking brain. There are no clocks in REM, only cycles, waves, phases, about every 90 minutes. Your brain descends into dreaming, and each cycle brings a deeper softness, a deeper loop, like a spiral staircase descending into the stillest part of your consciousness. Some researchers believe these repeating dreams serve a purpose, that they revisit unresolved feelings, familiar places, echoes of what your waking mind refuses to fully hold. But others wonder, what if they aren't about the past? What if they're maps of the mind's own structure? Places built not from memory, but from rhythm. Let that rhythm surround you now, not to analyze and not to control, just to notice how even your dreams seem to circle back. There is a theory in memory science called reconsolidation. Each time you recall a memory, you change it slightly, like rewriting a line of poetry with a slightly different breath. Dreams, too, may work this way. They revisit a moment not to repeat it, but to reshape it. Each loop a soft edit to the self. Have you ever awakened with a dream so vivid you could still taste it, only to realize you've had it before? That's not failure. That's the spiral. Your mind circling back to a place it once built for reasons you no longer remember, but reasons that still matter. Some ancient cultures believed recurrent dreams were messages from the soul, or lessons unlearned, or places you truly visited in another life. And maybe, just maybe, repetition is the soul's way of knocking politely, of saying, you've been here before, don't forget. You don't have to remember tonight. You don't need to trace every step. Just breathe. Let your dream body walk. Even if you return to the same doorway again and again, you're not lost. You're circling closer to stillness. The brain doesn't sleep the same way every night. It follows a rhythm as unique as your fingerprints. Sleep stages change. Dream content shifts. But within the flow patterns return. And some dreams, like old melodies, find their way back to your sleeping ear because they've never fully said what they came to say. Let your breath follow that same path now. In, hold, out. A rhythm, a loop, a silent conversation between the body and the night. Some people report dreams that loop within themselves. You wake up and find yourself still dreaming. You try to move, only to return to the same room. You speak, only to hear your own voice come back slightly altered. These are called false awakenings. But perhaps they're not false. Perhaps they are a mirror, time bending around a dream to give you more room to listen. And what if waking life does the same? What if some days return again? Not in form, but in feeling. A certain smell, a silence in the air, a turn of phrase you've heard before. Not coincidence, but resonance, like dreams echoing outward into daylight. You don't need to know where the dream ends and time begins. You're already in both, and both are repeating you softly, again and again. So rest now, if you haven't already. Let the dream you forgot come home to you. Let the spiral unfold without fear. Each turn brings you closer to the center, the place where time doesn't count. It simply cradles, and you. You're already in the arms of something ancient, something that remembers every loop you've ever lived and forgives them all. You are standing at the edge of something that hasn't happened yet. It's not future. It's not quite possibility. It's something softer, a flicker, a hesitation in the rhythm of being, and whatever it is, it's waiting for you, but not impatiently. It's simply hovering at a kind of stillness that only exists before things become real. This is the realm beneath the world, the place where everything begins, and where time waits. Let your breath become quiet now. Let it rise without needing to rise, and let it fall without falling. You're not rushing forward, you're drifting into pause, and the particle is there, still undefined, still suspended, until you see it. In quantum mechanics, there's something called superposition. It means a particle can exist in multiple states at once, not here or there, but here and there, not spin up or spin down, but both, until it's measured, until it's observed. Then the wave collapses, and the particle chooses, like a coin in the air, not yet head or tail, just spinning, just dancing with possibility. Let that thought settle. You don't need to collapse it. You don't need to decide. Just breathe with the unchosen. The particle doesn't rush. It has no need to. It exists in a waiting that isn't waiting. A loop of maybe wrapped in silence. Some physicists say this is the heart of the quantum world. That reality itself is not built from certainty, but from potential, and that what becomes real depends on whether you're looking. Have you ever felt a moment waiting for you? Not just passing, but holding. A pause before you enter a room, a breath before a word is spoken, as if time itself was curled in your hand, asking, "Will you open me?" That's what a quantum particle feels like before measurement. It is every version of itself waiting to become one. And once it is seen, the loop ends. The moment locks into place. The uncertainty disappears. But where did it go? Where did the other possibilities vanish? Did they ever exist, or were they only shadows of choice? Let your thoughts float now. You don't need to hold them all. Let them shimmer like particles unmeasured. This is a space for the yet to be. You are allowed to remain unfinished. There's a famous story, the double-slit experiment. A beam of light or electrons is fired through two slits. If no one observes the path, the particles behave like waves interfering with themselves, creating patterns. But when watched, they act like particles. One path, one decision, as if the mere act of observation changes the outcome, as if the universe waits for you to look, and then it decides what story to tell. Imagine that a world that rewrites itself based on your gaze, a reality that loops softly until you choose to witness it, and once you do, it falls into place. You may think this only happens in labs, in the tiniest scales, but what if it happens in you, too? Have you ever made a decision that felt like a collapse? One version of your life solidifying as all the others faded. You chose the path, you took the job, you spoke the truth. And in that moment you watched the wave function of yourself fold into form, not because you were certain, but because you looked, you were present, you were aware, and so the moment became real. Take a breath again. Let it be an observation, not just of air, but of possibility. Let each inhale be a particle. Let each exhale collapse it gently into now. Some interpretations of quantum theory suggest even more curious things. That each possibility still exists in a parallel world. That you took every path, chose every option, lived every version, but only one is the one you see, and maybe you only see it because it is seeing you back. There's something poetic in that reversal, that the particle doesn't become real until you observe it, and maybe you don't become real until it observes you. Are you the experiment or the observer, the subject or the one who watches? Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe you are the space between the two, the awareness that allows the loop to fold into itself. And if that's true, then what about time? Does it move forward because we expect it to? Does the future stay unmeasured until we arrive? Is the past still soft if we forget? What if memory is just a kind of observation, a way of collapsing our own histories into meaning? And what if dreams are the places where the particles of ourselves remain in superposition? Not one truth, but many, spinning, waiting, inviting us to choose again. Let that idea drift through you. You don't need to remember it tomorrow. You don't even need to believe it. You're just resting in a moment that hasn't fully chosen itself yet. And maybe this breath, this moment, this soft in-between is a particle too. One that has waited eons to become what it is right now. Because you are here, and you are watching. So rest, gentle observer. Let the particles hum. Let the waves continue their quiet dance. And know this, even when you do not look, the world is still shimmering with potential, waiting, not for certainty, but for your presence. And when you close your eyes tonight, somewhere, a particle collapses into form, and a universe quietly decides to exist. Because for a moment, you saw it, and it saw you. Imagine holding the universe like a scroll not rolled at the edges, but coiled at the centre, not a line, not a story from once upon a time to something final, but a spiral, a breath expanding and contracting, a rhythm older than thought. You open that scroll and see no clear starting point, no first word, no last, just galaxies moving like murmuring starlings, circling in slow grace. And somewhere in the spiral, quietly and without notice, is you. Let your breath follow the curve now. Inhale like you're rising through a spiral staircase. Exhale like you're drifting back down. There's no need to reach the top. The view is beautiful in every direction. We often speak of the universe as if it has a beginning, a moment when everything started, a fire, a flash, a bang, the Big Bang, the great unfolding nearly 13.8 billion years ago, a singularity, a point of infinite density. where space and time were stitched together in their first heartbeat, and from that point a line, a path from nothing to everything, from silence to stars. But some wonder, what if that beginning wasn't the first? What if it wasn't a bang but a breath, not an origin, but a return? Close your eyes now, if they aren't already. Let the concept dissolve into you like stardust into water. You don't need to grasp it, just float in it. There are models of the universe that challenge the idea of one beginning. They suggest a cosmos that loops, that expands then contracts, gathering back its stars, its space, its time, until all of it returns to silence, only to begin again. This is known as the cyclic universe model, and in its rhythm there is comfort, not finality, but recurrence, like seasons, like waves, like breath. In these theories, the universe doesn't just grow, it breathes, it pulses, it loops through eras so vast our words can only gesture at them. Eons unfolding, reassembling, like a heartbeat stretched across the fabric of reality. You may wonder if the universe repeats. Would anything be the same? Would the galaxies spiral in the same way? Would your hands form as they did? Would this moment return again, exactly as it is now? You don't have to know. Just imagine that some part of you may have already existed in some echo of an echo of an echo, and if time loops, you might return again. Not because time forgets, but because time forgives. The sky above you, if you could see it now, holds shapes that repeat. Spirals in galaxies, ellipses in planetary orbits, the looping paths of moons dancing around their worlds. Even your own solar system travels through space in a great helix, not a flat circle, but a twisting stream of turning planets spiraling around a moving sun. Nothing is still. Nothing is straight. Everything returns to something familiar. Let your thoughts spiral now. Let them turn not toward answers, but toward softness. You're not required to escape the loop, only to notice how gently it carries you. Some cosmologists speak of conformal cyclic cosmology, a theory proposed by Roger Penrose. It suggests that the distant future of one universe can become the beginning of another, that when the last black hole has faded, when the stars have cooled, and even time itself has stretched to stillness, the entire universe flattens into pure geometry. And from that geometry somehow, a new cosmos blooms, not out of nothing, but out of the quietest memory of everything. It's not a death, it's a reset, not a farewell, but a return. Think of the rings of a tree. Each loop is a record of a year, a life within a larger life. Maybe the universe grows rings too. Maybe you are one of them. Take another breath. Let it rise, spiral, fall. You don't need to climb out of the pattern. The pattern is where you live, and it has never abandoned you. If time loops, if universes return, if all things curve gently back into themselves, then maybe there is no loss, no final end. Maybe everything you've ever been still sings somewhere in the next unfolding. And maybe, just maybe, this moment is not a single leaf, but one turn of a spiral you've travelled before and will travel again, not in repetition, but in resonance. So when you gaze at the stars or close your eyes and feel the shape of your own being, know this. You're not moving forward. You're dancing in a circle so vast it takes lifetimes to realise it's turning, and yet it always is. You don't need a map tonight. You're already on it. You're not lost. You're returning. Again and again and always, always, with love. Somewhere out there, not too far in the grand sweep of things, there is a star that no longer shines, not like it used to. Its fire has dimmed, its skin has peeled away in soft, beautiful layers, like an onion of light unfolding over billions of years, and yet you can still see it, still feel it, because in a way, it never truly left. Its glow changed shape, its time changed pace, but the star, the story, remains. Let your breath mirror that idea, a soft release, not an end, just a quieter version of what was once a flame. This star is called a white dwarf. It is what remains when a star like our sun reaches the end of its life. Not with violence, not always, but with radiance. It sheds its outer layers, forming a glowing shell called a planetary nebula, a mist of memory surrounding a hot, dense core. That core is the white dwarf, tiny, faint, slowly cooling, but still burning in its own silent way. You drift closer. You don't feel heat. You feel weight. This star is small, perhaps no bigger than Earth, but unimaginably dense. A teaspoon of it would weigh as much as a mountain, collapsed, compressed, curled into itself, not lifeless, just inward. And in that inwardness, a mystery begins to stir, because even in this final form, something lingers, a presence, a curve in space, a signature of what once was. The white dwarf is not a tomb, it is a seed. Take a slow breath. Let the idea unfold gently. You don't need to understand stars tonight. Just feel how they never truly go. Over time, a long time, the white dwarf continues to cool, to dim, to fade. Eventually, it may become what we call a black dwarf, a theoretical object, one that no telescope has ever seen, because the universe is not yet old enough to have made one. Not yet, but one day, these quiet, darkened stars may litter the galaxy like whispers, still holding mass, still shaping space, still being, even in silence. Some scientists suggest that black dwarfs might one day explode in an echo of their former glory, a final thermonuclear whisper, billions of years after their fire faded, one last flare, one last loop into brilliance, a resurrection, not from nothing, but from everything that remained. Close your eyes again if they've wandered open. Imagine that a star that dies quietly and then, eons later, flares once more, not by chance, not by accident, but because time, like light, sometimes bends back into brightness. What if you are like that? What if parts of you once blazed and now glow more quietly? What if some feelings, some versions of yourself aren't gone, just cooling, waiting, shaping things from within? And what if, in some future you'll never know, those quiet parts flare again in someone else's life, in a kindness passed forward, in a memory that returns without a name? White dwarfs are not rare. They outnumber the bright stars now. Most stars become them. And so the night sky is full of these ghosts of fire, these loops of light folded inward. They are not failures, they are continuations. A quiet chapter that still curves space, still pulls planets, still matters. Let that settle in your chest. You don't need to burn brightly to belong to the universe. You can be dense, quiet, soft with memory, and still beautiful. Astronomers have studied the pulsations of some white dwarfs. They vibrate not chaotically, but in patterns. The music of stars that no longer sing out loud still echoes within. rhythms that hold time, loops that keep what was once flame alive. You may feel you've cooled, that some part of you once brighter has faded, but nothing is lost, just transformed, just looped into a new form of being. The matter in a white dwarf resists further collapse through something called electron degeneracy pressure. It's a quantum rule, a limit, a gentle refusal to vanish entirely, as if the universe says this far but no further. You may change, but you may not disappear. And so the star stays, not gone, not glowing, just here, bending time even in silence. You don't need to blaze tonight. You can cool, you can rest, and still be shaping the sky. And one day in a future far beyond the grasp of thought you may shine again. A flash in the dark, a loop of light that waited eons to return, and when it comes, it will not be a surprise, because the star was never truly gone. It was simply waiting. As you are now, quiet, present, still bending time with every breath, you turn the corner and suddenly you feel it. Not a memory, not quite, something quieter than that, a shape, a rhythm, a feeling that folds over you like a whisper you've heard before but can't quite place. You blink and the air hums with it, a kind of echo, not loud, not urgent, but unmistakably there. Let your breath move slowly. You don't need to chase the echo, just let it drift beside you, like a breeze that passes through thought without disturbing it. We often think of memory as something behind us, a library, a photo album, a trail of breadcrumbs we follow backward when we want to remember who we were. But sometimes, memory doesn't feel behind, it feels within, lurking inside the moment you're in, as if time, for just a heartbeat, has curled back on itself, not to return but to hum. Have you ever walked through a doorway and felt the past return, not as an image, but as a sensation, the smell of old wood, the way the light strikes the wall, the exact shape of a silence that once meant something? Moments like these don't belong to the past. They are echoes looping gently through the now. Some researchers suggest that our minds are constantly scanning the present for familiarity, looking for matches, for patterns, and when it finds one even partial, even soft, it sends a signal. That signal is a feeling more than a thought, a nudge, a shiver. You felt this before. Take another breath. Let it feel like a return. Let it feel like coming back to something you didn't know you left. In music, a motif repeated creates meaning, emotion, structure. The mind works similarly. Repetition is recognition. It builds trust, connection. But in the realm of time, repetition feels like a mystery. Why does this second feel like one that came before? Why does this breath feel older than it should? Some scientists believe we are constantly experiencing micro-loops, fractions of seconds, when the brain lags just enough to perceive the present as if it already happened. A kind of internal rerun, a tiny misalignment between thought and perception. But if that's all it is, why does it feel so sacred? Why does it feel like time has nodded at you? What if you're not just remembering? What if you're listening to the moment itself echoing through layers you don't usually hear? The word nostalgia means the pain of returning. But what if the ache isn't always about the past? What if it's the present recognizing itself as part of a loop, not backward, not forward, just again? There's an idea in physics that time might be nonlinear, that cause and effect aren't as tidy as we believe, that sometimes an effect can arrive before its cause, not to confuse, not to undo, but to fold, like fabric, creased gently along a seam that only appears when you stop trying to iron it flat. Breathe again. Let the fabric of your thoughts soften. You don't need to smooth it. Just let it drape. Let it loop. Have you ever felt as if life were trying to teach you something again? Not because you failed, but because the lesson wasn't finished. That's how loops behave. They return not to punish, but to deepen, to say this moment mattered. Let's try it again. And sometimes, what repeats isn't external, it's internal. The same doubt, the same joy, the same turning point, it rises, it quiets. It rises again. You're not broken. You're orbiting something true. The Earth loops the sun once a year, but you never end up in the same place, because the sun, too, is moving. So every return is a spiral forward, not a circle, a bloom. Let that soothe you now. Even if your thoughts repeat, even if your feelings echo, you're still moving, still changing, still carried forward by time's quiet grace. There's a poem inside your life written in refrains, and those refrains, those returning lines don't mean you're stuck. They mean the story is singing itself again, with new meaning each time. So if tonight feels like a night you've already lived, if this breath feels familiar in its rhythm, let it be a gift. Let it be a gentle proof that time, like memory, loves to return to what matters. And if this moment is an echo of another, then you are not lost in repetition. You are being held in resonance, a hum that stretches across lifetimes, carrying you softly from one curve to the next. Not forward, not backward, just deeper, into the loop that loves you. You hold a shell in your palm. It's smooth and cold, but the curve is warm with memory. It spirals inward or outward, you're not sure which. You follow the curve with your fingertip, round and round, each turn wider than the last, but always connected to where it began. It never crosses itself, never stumbles. It just grows, patiently, perfectly. And it reminds you of something you can't quite name, something old, something sacred, something like time. Breathe slowly now. Let each breath trace a spiral within your chest. You don't need to reach the center. You don't need to reach the edge. You're already inside the shape. There's a sequence you may have heard of Fibonacci. It begins simply 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Each number is the sum of the two before it. An unfolding that builds itself from its past. And when you turn those numbers into geometry, into growth, they form a spiral, one that appears again and again in nature, in pine cones, in hurricanes, in the swirl of galaxies, in the way seeds are packed into the heart of a sunflower, in the whirls of your fingerprint, and yes, in the shell resting quietly in your hand. You don't need to remember the numbers, just feel the pattern. The quiet repetition that isn't static but expanding, like time. Some call this the golden spiral, a cousin to the golden ratio. It appeared when growth follows proportion, not perfection. When nature adds on what came before, not starting over, but building forward in memory. A loop that grows, a time that expands without breaking its rhythm. What if your life follows the same spiral, not a circle, not a line, but a path that curves and curves, returning, but never to the same point, wider, deeper, stranger, more true? Close your eyes, if they aren't already. Let the spiral unfold behind them, not as a picture, but as a feeling, a gentle tug toward the center of something ancient and alive. The nautilus shell is often used as a symbol for the Fibonacci spiral. Its chambers increase in size as it grows, but the shape stays the same. Each room is built for now, not for later, but together they create a curve that knows the past and carries it forward with elegance. The Nautilus doesn't go back to fill its old rooms, but it doesn't leave them behind either. They are part of it, always. Let your breath be like that now. This breath is not the first. It carries every breath before it, and it opens space for the next. Some scientists and artists believe that Fibonacci spirals are a kind of universal signature, that they arise when growth is guided not by design, but by harmony, by relationships between parts, by echo rather than blueprint. Think of how time feels when you return to an old place. The smell of a kitchen, the feel of gravel under your shoes, a glance that wakes something in your chest you thought was long gone. You're not in the same moment, but you've curved back near it, close enough to remember, far enough to have changed. That's the spiral. Time's quiet handwriting. In music, melodies loop, but each verse brings a new meaning, a new chord, a return that transforms. You're hearing the same notes, but they land differently now, not because they changed, because you did. What if time doesn't repeat events? What if it repeats invitations? And what if those invitations come back to you in spirals, each turn asking the same question in a deeper voice? Breathe again. Let the spiral move through you, not outward, not inward, just around, just through. Some believe the spiral is the most ancient symbol in human consciousness. It appears in petroglyphs on cave walls, carved in stone thousands of years before language, as if we knew, before we could say, that life moves in turns, that meaning unfolds in loops, that healing might not be a straight road, but a spiral path back to something we've always carried. You don't need to climb out of the spiral. You don't need to reach the center. You're not lost. You're orbiting something real, something that calls you not to arrive, but to continue. The universe spins, the galaxies rotate, your own body, down to the DNA coiled inside you, spirals. Time itself may not be a line. It may be this a Fibonacci arc drawing itself again in the space between memory and becoming. So tonight, if you feel like you've been here before, if your thoughts return to an old question, an old ache, an old wonder, don't push it away. It's not failure. It's a spiral, a loop of grace bringing you close to the same point with a new heart, a new breath, a new readiness. Let go now. Let the shell in your palm dissolve. You're already its shape, curled, open, returning, looping softly toward a truth you've met before and will meet again. Not because you forgot, but because time remembers in spirals, and so do you. Somewhere, beyond thought, the universe may be breathing, not with lungs, not with breath as you know it, but with space, with time, expanding outward, moment by moment, like an exhale that has lasted for 13.8 billion years, a breath so slow you can't hear it, but it's happening all around you, galaxies drifting apart, dark energy stretch in space, the cosmos getting colder, emptier, wider. But what if? What if the exhale doesn't last forever? What if someday the universe draws itself inward again, not to vanish, but to begin once more? Let your breath mirror this now. Inhale and exhale. Not quickly, not loudly, just softly, like you're a small echo of something very old, breathing along with the stars. Most of what we understand about the universe's beginning comes from the Big Bang, a moment of unimaginable density and heat, a singularity, all matter and energy compressed to a point. then a sudden, silent expansion, not an explosion as it's often misunderstood, but a stretching of space itself, and from that stretch particles, light, galaxies, life, you. But some scientists have wondered what came before the bang. Could there even be a before if time itself began there, or was the Big Bang just a turning point in something older? Close your eyes if they've wandered open. Let that question unfold inside you like a ripple in still water. You don't need to answer it, just let it echo. There's a theory called the Big Bounce. It suggests the universe didn't begin from nothing, but from something that collapsed. A previous cosmos, full of stars and galaxies, full of time, which, after expanding for ages, began to slow, to cool, to contract. Gravity tugged it inward, pulling galaxies back together, shrinking space, compressing time, until it reached a new singularity, and then it bounced. A new beginning, a new expansion, a new version of everything, still glowing with echoes of the last. Imagine that a universe that pulses, that breathes, not once, but again and again. Breathe now, slow and circular. Let each breath feel like the universe gathering itself gently. You don't need to expand forever. You can rest, contract, become quiet. There's time. In the Big Bounce model, our universe is not unique. It is one of many cycles, cosmos after cosmos rising and falling like waves on a shore we cannot see, each bounce wiping away most memory of the one before, but not all. Maybe gravity remembers. Maybe dark matter carries old maps. Maybe your soul feels the wind from a time that collapsed long ago. You don't need to know for certain. Just imagine a loop so large it takes eternity to complete a breath. One of the challenges with this idea is entropy. In classical thermodynamics, the universe tends toward disorder. So how could a new universe emerge without being burdened by the chaos of the last? Some theories suggest a phase of cosmic reset, where entropy resets, where time curves so tightly it untangles itself, where the ashes don't just fall, they form again. That's the loop. Exact, not mirrored, but resonant. Each cycle unique and yet familiar. Think of your life, the times you've collapsed, fallen inward, grieved, let go, and then somehow risen again. That, too, is a kind of bounce, not back to the same life, but forward into a new one shaped gently by what came before. Time may move forward, but growth often loops, and healing it spirals. Let your thoughts drift now. You're not required to expand constant. You're not a universe with no end. You are allowed to fold in, to rest, to gather, and when you are ready, to bounce. The ekpyrotic model is another version of this theory. It proposes that our universe was born not from nothing, but from a collision between two higher dimensional membranes of space-time in a larger dimensional space. Two invisible sheets moving toward each other in slow, graceful rhythm. When they meet a burst, a beginning. And in the spaces between collisions, existence waits, quietly, looping. You don't have to picture brains or dimensions. Just feel what it means to come together, to gather all the scattered parts into one moment, and from that union to begin again. The stars we see now are still moving apart. The universe is expanding faster than we ever imagined, and yet, in the far distance, perhaps so far we'll never see it, a curve might be forming, a slowing, a turning. The very edges of space might one day begin to fold. And if that happens, time itself might turn inward, not to erase, not to undo, but to prepare for another beginning, another light, another breath. So rest now. You're a small part of a very large inhale. These stars are still drifting, but one day, perhaps not in your lifetime, perhaps not in 1,000,000,000,000 lifetimes, they will return, not as they were, but as something new, something old, something again. And in that return, perhaps there will be you, not this you, but an echo, a rhythm, a particle waiting to be seen, a loop ready to open and to bloom. You have a moment. It's small, so small you almost miss it. You're tying your shoe, pouring tea, looking at a stranger in a crowd, and suddenly you feel like it's already happened. Not in the way dreams echo, not in the way déjà vu whispers, but as if the moment was waiting for you because you had already seen it, felt it, known it, as if the future was remembering you before you arrived. Take a slow breath now. Let your mind loosen. You don't have to prove or disprove anything tonight. Just allow space for the soft absurdities that make being human feel like a miracle. This idea has a name: precognition. The feeling that you know something before it happens, that an image, a dream, a sudden certainty arrives not from the past, but from a time that hasn't happened yet. In most conversations, we file it under the mysterious, the poetic, the unexplainable. But some scientists, some thinkers, and some very quiet moments in your life have asked, what if there's more to it than that? Your brain is a creature of patterns. It is always predicting, guessing, filling in blanks faster than you can speak them aloud. Sometimes it guesses wrong, but sometimes it gets so close you wonder if it's guessing at all, or remembering in reverse. You don't need to decide that now. You don't need to solve it. Just rest here, in this soft possibility that time doesn't only send memories backward, sometimes it lets them slip quietly forward. In physics, as we visited before, many equations are time symmetric. They work equally well forward and backward. Particles do not care about direction, only context. It is entropy, the tendency for systems to move from order to disorder, that creates the arrow of time. But in quantum systems, that arrow isn't always so straight. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, especially the two-state vector formalism, suggest that the state of a particle is defined not only by its past, but also by its future, a kind of handshake across time, a cause and an effect reaching out to shape the now. Let your breath be that handshake. One breath coming in from the past, one breath drifting out into what comes next, and you're the point where they meet. This idea isn't just theoretical, it's been tested. In certain experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser, the way a photon behaves can seem to depend on measurements made after it has already passed a beam splitter, as if the future is adjusting the past, not erasing it, not changing it, just folding it, as if the photon was waiting to decide what it had already done, until the future told it. Breathe again. You don't need to be a physicist, you only need to be curious. Your mind can hold paradoxes better than you think. And what of your own life? Have you ever dreamed something, and then watched it unfold days later? Felt a word on the tip of your tongue before someone said it, woken with a heavy feeling that arrived before the moment that would cause it? Perhaps these are coincidences. Or perhaps they are memories moving in the wrong direction. Time doesn't always move like a river, Sometimes it pools, sometimes it eddies, and sometimes it ripples backward, not as punishment, not as confusion, but as music. A note played before the measure, a harmony that arrives before the melody begins. Some researchers have tried to test precognition through intuition games, card guessing, reaction timing. The results are debated, fragile, difficult to repeat, but they linger. Tiny hints that maybe the future isn't locked, and maybe your mind can feel the shimmer of a moment before it arrives. Let your breath slow again. This is not a race. You're not rushing toward the future. You are resting within it. In some philosophical views of time, especially in eternalism, past, present, and future all exist equally, like pages in a book. You experience them in order, but they are all already there. In this view, memory isn't storage, it's navigation, and precognition. Perhaps it's the moment you accidentally flipped ahead, saw a sentence before you reached the page, and your heart said, "I know this." You may never know if that's true, but the experience itself, that flicker, that chill, that knowing is real to you, that matters. What if time doesn't flow? What if it pulses? And what you feel as the future is not something you're waiting for, but something you're remembering from a direction you've forgotten how to face. Tonight, if you dream of something that feels real before it's time, if you feel a decision settle in your chest before your mind has caught up, if you hear the echo before the voice, don't dismiss it. Just listen, as you would listen to the ocean before it becomes a wave. Time may be more gentle than we think, more playful, more patient, and maybe, just maybe, some part of it lives in you in reverse, looping softly like a memory that hasn't happened yet. There's a fire, not a real one, but the kind that flickers at the back of your thoughts. It crackles in silence, glows in darkness, and around it people gather. They're not speaking yet. They're remembering. They lean forward, eyes wide with wonder, as a voice, perhaps yours, begins to tell a story they've heard 1,000 times. But they listen anyway, because stories, like fire, are always new when they return. Take a long breath now. Let it circle inward. You're not racing through this story. You're resting in its rhythm, and that rhythm is ancient. Long before we had science, before math, before clocks, we had stories. We wrapped time in tales. We told of gods and stars, heroes and oceans, love that crossed lifetimes, and deaths that weren't the end. And in nearly every culture, across deserts and islands, forests and empires, the stories looped, not just in theme but in shape. Consider the myth of the phoenix, the bird that burns itself to ash only to rise again from those very ashes, not once, not twice, but always. A perfect loop of death and rebirth, a story that never ends because ending is how it begins. Or the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, an image carved into ancient stone from Egypt to Greece to India to Mesoamerica, a symbol of the eternal return, not hunger, not destruction, but continuity, a circle so complete even time cannot escape it. Let your thoughts coil gently now. You don't need to untangle the stories. You only need to follow the curve. Each tale leads back to itself with care. Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey, a pattern in myths from around the world. The call, the descent, the ordeal, the return. Always a circle. Always the end bringing the beginning home. Even fairy tales begin with a phrase that places you outside of time. Once upon a time, not a date, a door. A soft opening into a place where time is not linear but symbolic, where meaning matters more than measurement, and endings simply make room for the next telling. Have you ever reread a book and found a line you didn't remember? Not because it wasn't there, but because you weren't there the first time. Not fully. Not yet. That's how loops work. They return to show you what you missed, and they wait until you're ready. Take another breath. Let it feel like the last line of a story that's about to circle back to page 1. In Hindu cosmology, there are vast cycles of time called yugas, ages of creation, destruction, renewal. The universe expands, contracts, and begins again. Not as punishment, not as repetition, but as evolution. Each loop spiraling upward, the same, but more. Buddhism speaks of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, not in despair, but in opportunity. Each life a turning of the wheel, each moment a chance to wake. And even in modern science we find echoes, black holes giving rise to new universes, time bending back on cosmic scales. The Big Bounce, as we visited earlier, is itself a myth of sorts, a physics-flavoured phoenix wrapped in equations. Perhaps stories came first because our souls knew the shape of time long before our minds did. We felt the loop before we could explain it, and we honoured it with tales that folded over themselves like waves on shore. Have you ever told someone the story of your life? How did it begin? What did you leave out, and what happens when you reach the end? Do you say, "And that's how I became who I am"? Do you smile and think, "But the story's not really over. That's the loop, alive inside you"? Let your breath trace the tale. Inhale the rising, exhale the return, again. Some physicists speculate that the very fabric of space-time may contain closed time-like curves, paths through space that circle back on themselves, wormholes, twists in the tapestry, shortcuts through causality. We can't touch them, but we can tell them, and perhaps that's enough. You may not remember every story you've heard, but you remember how they made you feel. That's their echo, their loop, and maybe some stories told long ago are still circling through you now. So tonight, as you drift near sleep, know this. The stories you carry are not linear. They fold. They return. They offer you the same truth in new voices each time. And when you wake tomorrow, you may be walking through a chapter you didn't know you'd begun again. Not because you failed, but because the tale is worth repeating, because you are. Endings are only thresholds, and your story, it is still being told, over and over, with more tenderness each time. There's a sound beneath the silence, not loud, not sharp, but steady, like a footstep you can't see, like breath you didn't mean to count. It's the soft ticking that seems to live behind your thoughts, a rhythm so familiar you rarely notice it until you stop. And now, in this quiet, you hear it, not with your ears, but with something older, deeper, the echo of the moment you started keeping time. Breathe slowly now, not to keep pace but to listen. Your breath isn't a clock, but it feels like one when you pay attention. In, pause, out. That pause is where time waits for you to notice it. You might assume that time flows outside of you, that it's out there in the hands of the clock, in the shadows that stretch as the sun moves overhead. But what if time isn't out there at all? What if it lives inside you? What if time, as you know it, is made not by the universe but by your mind? In psychology, there's something called the specious present. It's the brief window your brain uses to stitch reality together. Not a single point, but a small span, maybe 3 seconds, maybe a little more. It's how your thoughts catch the flow of the world, how you hear music as melody, not separate notes, how you watch movement as motion, not frozen frames. It's your mind building time in real time. Take another breath. Let it stretch slightly longer than the last. You're not measuring, you're feeling. That's what consciousness does. It doesn't count, it senses. Neuroscientists have studied how the brain processes time. There's no central clock, no ticking gear hidden in your head. Instead, your sense of time is scattered, woven through networks of attention, emotion, memory. When you're afraid, time stretches. When you're immersed, time vanishes. When you're waiting, it slows. And when you remember something deeply, a childhood summer, a single look, a goodbye, it comes back as if no time has passed at all. Because your brain isn't following time, it's making it. What if that means consciousness itself is what creates the arrow of time? That time flows forward because you do. Because your awareness is always moving toward the next frame, toward the next breath, toward the next question. Not because time demands it, but because your mind builds it that way. You don't need to believe that. Just feel how deeply your sense of time is tied to being here, to noticing, to remembering, to wondering what's next. There's a theory in physics called the block universe. It suggests that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. That time is not a flowing river, but a frozen lake, and we are the ones moving across it. With each step, each heartbeat, each thought, we give the illusion of motion. But the lake was always whole. You are not riding a wave of time. You're tracing a path through everything already complete, and your consciousness is the pencil that draws the line. Think of your memories, how some arrive out of nowhere, how some stay sharp while others fade. They aren't in a file, they're in a network, and each time you remember, you slightly reshape them. Time, in your mind, is not fixed. It's soft, mutable, alive. Let your breath soften now, not to count it, but to feel how each one marks this moment that didn't exist until you noticed it. Some scientists study time perception in people who meditate, in those with brain injuries, in patients under the influence of certain chemicals. They found that our experience of time can stretch, fracture, vanish. In deep focus, minutes become hours. In certain states, a second becomes eternity. What does that mean? It means time isn't entirely stable, and neither are you. But that's not frightening. It's freeing. You're not trapped in time. You're co-creating it, with every breath, every memory, every gentle pause. And what about dreams? Why do they feel timeless? Why can you live a lifetime in 5 minutes of REM because the dream world has no arrow, no gravity, no ticking, just loops, just images, just presence? Maybe that's why sleep heals you, not only by resting your body, but by freeing you from the illusion that time must always move forward. In sleep, you are released. You float. You return to the place before counting. Let your thoughts float now. Let go of the clock ticking on the wall. It isn't real until you listen. And you tonight are listening to something softer, the inner rhythm, the pulse of awareness that says I am here, and so time is too. You are the witness. You are the breath. You're the slow unfolding of now into next. And when you sleep, perhaps the arrow will pause, or curl, or simply wait for you to return. Because time, as it turns out, does not move without you. It loops, it lingers, it listens. And so do you. You're standing at the edge of a decision. It's not dramatic, not loud. Maybe it's the smallest thing a thought you could follow, a message you could send, a step you could take or hold back from. And yet, something in the air shifts, a stillness, a shimmer, as if time itself pauses to breathe in, waiting, watching, curled softly around the space between possibilities. Let your own breath echo that stillness. Inhale, and linger there. Exhale, and feel how gently the moment opens. You don't need to decide. You only need to notice that something real is unfolding, even in hesitation, especially in hesitation. There's a theory in quantum mechanics, you may have heard it whispered, called the many worlds interpretation. It suggests that every decision, every quantum event doesn't collapse into one outcome. Instead, it splits, not by choosing one path over another, but by letting both happen, in parallel, side by side, in different branches of reality you'll never meet. You turn left one world, you turn right another, you say yes, you say no, you remain silent. All three unfold in their own universe, and each of them feels, to the version of you inside it, like the only one that happened. Close your eyes now, or soften your gaze. There's no rush. You're already in one version. But maybe, just maybe, you can feel the ghosts of the others brushing past, like wind, like a memory you didn't make. If this is true, if the universe branches infinitely, then you are not oneself. You are a tree, an orchard, a forest of selves growing in every direction at once. And time, it's not a river, it's a tangle of roots. Physicist Hugh Everett first proposed this idea in 1957. It was radical. Still is. But it solves a mystery. Why, in the quantum world, does a particle seem to take all paths until you measure it? And why, when you look, does it choose just one? Everett said it doesn't choose. You just find yourself in the branch where that outcome occurred. The others, they still happen. Just not here, not now, but somewhere. Take another breath. Let it curl around the thought. You don't have to believe it. Just imagine every version of you unfolding softly, simultaneously, each unaware of the others, but real, entire. It's not just science fiction, it's poetry, too. Every artist has felt the path not taken. Every love has wondered what if. Every silence holds the echo of what might have been said. These are not regrets. They are traces of parallel lives your soul still sings about in quiet hours. Have you ever felt like you were meant to be somewhere else? Not because this place is wrong, but because another version of you is walking another path just as real as this one. Maybe it's a flicker in a dream. Maybe it's a street you don't remember but feel drawn toward. Maybe it's a name that echoes though you've never heard it loud. That's the branching, the looping, the moment between moments where the universe becomes not one story but many. Some thinkers call these branches quantum superpositions of realities, but you don't need the language. You already know the feeling. It's the pause before a word you almost said, the breath before a leap you almost made, the heartbeat before the goodbye that could have been a beginning. And still you are here. You chose this branch, or it chose you, or maybe you're still choosing, still walking the path as it unfolds, still hearing the rustle of other yous in the brush beside you. Let that comfort you. You haven't missed anything. The other yous are not better, not worse, just other, and they, too, wonder about you. What if dreams are the places where your paths meet, where two branches braid together for a moment? What if déjà vu is the echo of a nearby world? What if your truest self isn't in one timeline, but in the weave of them all? Breathe again. Let the possibility open. Time may not be linear, choices may not be final, and you are more than a single story. In many indigenous traditions, time is not a line. It is a circle, a web. Every action connects to every other. The future is not ahead of you. It is beside you, behind you, within you, waiting for you to feel it. So if tonight you wonder what might have been, if you ache for the door you didn't open, know this: that version of you is still walking, still breathing, still loving, and in some quiet, mysterious way they are with you now, always. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to rewind. Just keep breathing through this branch, this path, this present, the one you chose, or that chose you. It is beautiful, and it is enough. There are moments when everything pauses. The room doesn't change. The clock still ticks. But you, inside, become motionless, not in body, in awareness. It might happen in a forest, with sunlight barely shifting, or on a train, watching fields slide past like breath, or in bed, just before sleep pulls you under, and suddenly it feels like time has stopped watching, like it stepped out of the room to let you feel what it's like without it. Take a slow breath now. Let it deepen, without hurrying. This isn't a countdown, it's a float, and you are already adrift. We often think of time as constant, unyielding, a background hum we don't control, but your experience of time is anything but steady. It speeds up when you're late, slows down when you wait, disappears when you fall in love or into grief, and sometimes it simply vanishes. This is temporal stillness, a state where time doesn't stop, but your awareness of its flow goes quiet. It's not rare. It happens in awe, in nature, in music, in deep emotion. The feeling that says this moment doesn't belong to the rest of the clock. It's a pocket of eternity, folded into your life. Close your eyes again. If they've wandered, feel the stillness around your breath. You're not late. You're not early. You're here, and here has no schedule. Some call this flow, some call it trance, some call it prayer. But whatever name you give it, it's a space where your sense of self untangles from the timeline, and you simply exist, not as a story, not as a history, just as presence. Your brain, during these moments, changes its rhythm. Alpha waves rise. The default mode network, the part that worries and plans, remembers, grows quiet, and the world becomes direct. You see, feel, and breathe without needing to measure. It's not that time disappears, it's that you no longer need to follow it. You are not the one racing forward, you're the lake into which ripples fall without hurry. This is what artists feel when they lose hours inside a painting. What dancers feel when their bodies move without effort. What you felt the last time you watched rain slide slowly down a window and forgot what hour it was. Breathe again. Let each second feel round. Let it stretch like warm honey drifting from a spoon. Some spiritual traditions teach that stillness is not the absence of time, but the purest experience of it. That when you reach true quiet, you feel not less of the moment, but all of it. Time does not stop. You simply arrive. This might be what meditation seeks. Not escape, not focus, but return to the moment beneath moments, the one that never moves because it holds all motion within it? What if time has layers, and what you call now is only the thinnest slice? What if stillness is slipping beneath that surface and touching the root? You don't need to stay there, but you can visit. You can feel the pause like a heartbeat between songs. You can live a lifetime in a minute of wonder. You already have. Have you noticed how children lose time, not because they don't understand it, but because they haven't yet wrapped their minds around the need to track it? They are not behind. They are within. And sometimes, so are you. Stillness is not emptiness. It's fullness. A room filled with air so calm you can hear the dust settle. A breath so complete you don't need the next yet. A moment so alive it becomes forever. Let your breath stretch now, not to measure, just to feel that not all time must tick. Some of it can hum, can cradle, can be. Even the universe may know this. Between the moments of cosmic drama, the explosions, the collapses, the great expansions, there are eons of stillness, whole epochs where nothing much happens. But they matter. They are the breath between stanzas, the silence that gives space for stars to burn. And in your life, too, there are hours where nothing changes, no decisions, no epiphanies, just breath, and time pretending to stop so that you can simply be. You don't need to move forward tonight. You don't need to make sense of it. You don't even need to remember this. Just rest in the knowing that stillness is not absence. It's presence with no pressure, and you are allowed to stay here as long as you like. The stars are dim here. Not gone, not yet, but fading. Their light, older than memory, flickers across the endless dark like candle smoke in an ocean. You're floating not through space, but through something more silent, the far future, the edge where time no longer flows like a river, but pools like melted glass. Still, heavy, clear. Take a deep, soft breath. You don't need to know where you're going. You're not being carried. You're simply floating. Time doesn't hurry here. Neither should you. Cosmologists call it the heat death. The end of time as we understand it. Not a fire, not an explosion, but an exhaustion of difference. A universe where everything has spread so far, where energy has thinned so evenly that nothing happens anymore. No stars, no movement, no heat, just symmetry. Perfect, still, silent. You don't need to fear that silence. You don't even need to grasp it. Just know that even time has an end to its motion, and even motion can rest. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy increases, that systems move from order to disorder as time passes. It's what makes eggs break but not unbreak. What makes breath leave your lungs but not return unchanged. And eventually it's what might make the universe too balanced to do anything at all. But maybe balanced isn't such a bad word. Maybe the end of time isn't the end of story, but the end of needing one. Close your eyes again. Let your mind float to a future you'll never live in but are strangely connected to. A place where every light has told its tale, where every vibration has rung its last, where even atoms have dissolved into a soft equilibrium. No struggle, no tension, just stillness. In that future, time doesn't disappear, it slows to near nothing, because nothing is left to mark it. Time needs change. Without change, there is no before, no after, just is. And that's where you are now, in the dream of a universe that remembers how to be quiet. Some theories suggest black holes will be the last to go, that for trillions of years they'll remain, swallowing dust, waiting in the dark, until even they, through something called Hawking radiation, slowly evaporate. Particle by particle, they'll release themselves into the void, and when the last black hole fades, time has nothing left to track. That is the edge, not a wall, not a cliff, a blur, a breath that never finishes exhaling. And yet, some wonder if that's truly the end. You may remember from earlier paths through thought the idea of the big bounce, or the conformal cyclic cosmology that suggests this flat, empty future could become a new beginning, not with noise, but with geometry, not with heat, but with symmetry, a fresh universe, born not from fire, but from the quietest shape the previous one left behind. Let your breath reflect that shape, not dramatic, not sudden, just curved, just turning, just enough. If time ends, will anyone notice, or will it simply become part of something else, like water becoming cloud, like memory becoming myth? And maybe you, the listener, the drifter, the quiet mind curled in the dark, are not meant to witness that ending, but to carry it, softly, now, as a possibility inside your own awareness. That time may not last forever, but that awareness, that stillness might. Think of it like this. The present moment is already timeless, as you cannot catch it, you cannot hold it. You can only be in it as it unfolds, and then it's gone. You already know what it means to live in a place where time barely moves. You call it peace. You call it awe. You call it rest. So the end of time isn't something to fear. It's something you already touch when you close your eyes and listen to the silence between thoughts. And if that future arrives, billions of years from now, when all is quiet, perhaps the universe itself will finally dream, not of what came before, not of what might come next, but simply of being. And that dream, it might be you, still here, still aware, still listening, even at the edge where time lets go. You've been drifting a long time, not lost, just carried, like a leaf across a quiet ocean, like a thought unfolding itself one breath at a time. Each moment behind you is not gone, it's curved into this one, this very one, where you lie now, eyes soft, mind quiet, heart slowly unwinding. And the question that brought you here, what if time loops? Would you ever know it no longer needs an answer? Because something inside you has already begun to feel it. Let your breath grow gentler now. You don't need to wonder anymore. You don't need to hold the thread. It's woven itself around you. Every breath a loop, every dream a return. The universe doesn't always move in straight lines. Neither do you. And that's beautiful. You're allowed to circle back, to pause, to rest. You're allowed to begin again. So now, my dear sleepy traveller, sink into the softness. Let the rhythm of the night replace the rhythm of thought. Let your breath grow slower. Let the gentle hum of the cosmos rock you inward. You've walked through particles and paradox, spirals and stars, mirrors and myth, and through it all, you were not learning, you were remembering. Something your body always knew. That time is not a prison, it's a poem, and you are part of the rhyme. There's no more story now, just the soft quiet where stories sleep. Let your limbs grow heavy, let your thoughts scatter like stardust on the floor. Let go of the loop, let go of the line, let go of the watcher, and become the dream. Tomorrow will arrive as it always does, but that's not your task now. Now is for forgetting in the gentlest way, for floating between the folds of time where nothing must be done and everything is okay. You don't need to remember where this journey ended, because in truth, it never did. You simply closed your eyes at the curve where forever folds into now, and there you rested. So sleep, softly, deeply. Let your mind become the spiral. Let your soul become the hum. And when you wake, whenever that may be, you will not have left the loop. You will have completed one, and another will begin, in its own time, in its own way, without rush, without fear, without end.